Okay. You,
But I did. We don't have to debate about this now or anything. But are you familiar with the argument against subjectivism via disjunctive elimination using monologism, Lucario?
No, but I also don't really like believe in subjectivism.
Wait, what? Huh? What?
I'm not
I
familiar
thought
with
you
the.
were. Wait. You said you don't believe in moral subjectivism? I thought you were moral subjectivists.
No, more subjectivism. Like I affirm realist semantics, which I feel like most accounts of subjectivism are going to want to probably explain moral language in a subjective lens, which I reject.
Okay, so you accept a realist semantic thesis, but you accept an anti-realist ontological thesis or something?
Yeah.
In the sense where what? Like they're all systematically false. You don't believe like what? In the sense that you don't believe that there are any irreducibly normative properties or what? What does it
Most
mean
of
when you
them are
say that you accept the ontological thesis?
most of them are false. It's not like systematically false, but most of them are like false by virtue of their truth conditions. Um, and then
So
I'm
you're
not
like
sure
a
how.
error theorist.
Yeah, but like not like the common error theory. I more so adopt someone like Don Loeb's view. Um, and then as far as moral language, I like the way that I partic in moral language, having the ontological commitments that I do. I usually just substitute it with normative language or game theory.
Okay. You substitute language for game theory. You said. You're. Do you said you adopt Loeb's view?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the difference between his view and like Mackey's queerness view?
Mackey's queerness view, Mackey lays like a lot of objections that Don Loeb doesn't really commit himself to. Um, because I actually find responses to the queerness objection, like companions and innocence, I find those pretty convincing. Companions and innocence is like a response to companions and guilt. Um, and it kind of further solidifies the idea that um, there's not all that much of like it's not inconceivable um, the nature of like moral facts um, on certain fronts. It's just that their relation to actions, like that might be the queerness part, but surely not what Mackey's usually talking about. And then something else that Loeb uses to separate himself from J.L. Mackey is that I feel like a lot of error theorists, I don't know if they're intentionally doing this, but like they make really, really broad semantic theses as if they're like all true and they always like emphasize universal distribution, whereas like Don Loeb's like, okay, obviously not everyone's using moral language in the exact same way. And so for me, I feel like there are probably certain people out there that have moral language used in a way that isn't like systematically false. I just feel like the vast majority of them do, and I have a hypothesis as to why they do that.
You have a hypothesis as to why people use moral language in the ways that they do.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the semantic? That's just what a semantic theory is. What is it?
Well, I mean, it's not a semantic theory because a semantic, well, thesis, a semantic thesis is a description about how they use it. My hypothesis is about why it's the case that they use it that way. Um, and my hypothesis is more so looking at the structure of language, like initially. So I look at the English language, I look at the Spanish language or any Latin language. And it seems like the founders of those language and the people creating like the rules and the grammar, it looks like the vast majority of them were religious and believed in at least some Abrahamic religion. And I also take the conditional that if you know theology is true, or sorry, if theism is true, then error theory would be false. Because I don't think I can look at a theist's worldview and say that, oh yeah, you're just using like wrong semantics, like your propositions are systematically false. Um, I don't think that a theist has the same issues that I'm levying on an atheist, because I feel like a lot of moral language is kind of embedded with a theistic background, and so the people creating English and Latin, and Sanskrit, etc., they had moral terms and ethical terms that worked coherently with their worldview, but
Wait. Why? Sorry to cut you off, but why? I'm not exactly seeing how this isn't going to basically presume like some concepts in the background that somebody like say, a constructivist or like a sophisticated expressivist would just have no reason to adopt, right? It seems like the theory relies on like a very controversial interpretation of like folk discourse practices, right? That like a constructivist or a sophisticated expressivist would just have no reason to adopt, right? So like, what's going to be the motivation, right, such that neither of the premises are going to be like parasitic on the plausibility of its conclusion?
Oh, which premises? I don't. Are you talking about an argument that I already gave?
Yeah,
Like,
so I'm saying, so when I say premises, I'm talking about like I've already formalized your argument like in my head just based off the information that you've given me. And I'm saying that it seems to me that the sort of interpretation that you have of folk discourse practice is going to be controversial, right? In the sense where it purports to show that moral talk, um, although it refers to like these irreducibly normative properties, that nevertheless these entities don't exist, right? In which case, you're not saying that all of them are systematically false, but you're saying that most of them are false in virtue of the non-existence of those kinds of entities, right? But suppose that somebody's like a just like a constructivist or some type of sophisticated expressivist about moral language, in which case they would not have any reason to believe that moral sentences aim or purport to show or that they are in any way connected to like irreducibly normative properties, right? So what I'm wondering is what's going to be the sort of like motivation, right? Like evidentially speaking, for like why a sophisticated expressivist or like a constructivist would accept those kinds of controversial interpretations of folk discourse practice.
okay, you're just saying that there's a bunch of people who have semantic theses that you don't necessarily agree with, but they have those semantic theses, and based on them having those interpretations, they would disagree with my interpretations. Is that what you're saying? So
No,
you're just
so
asking for like the motivation that people use moral language in a realist sense?
no. So what I'm more attacking is like the coherency of the argumentation that you're presenting and whether or not it's going to run afoul to something like question begging. Okay, because presumably, like if you were to formalize this argumentation, right, for this interpretation that you have of what exactly folk discourse consists of, right, presumably you don't want it to be such that the plausibility of any of the premises are going to be like parasitic on the truth about the conclusion of the argument, right? The conclusion just being
There
that moral language is real, right?
there hasn't been anything that would imply that the inferences that I'm making are question begging. Um, But, I mean, if you can, like maybe if when you formalized it in your head, maybe you interpreted it that way, but what I wanna get clear on is, do we agree on, moral language being in a realist notion, or do you wanna sign off on perhaps sophisticated expressivism's semantic thesis or constructivism's semantic
No,
thesis?
no,
Are
no.
those things that you don't
So
agree with? Or do you just want me to give arguments against people who aren't here?
against people who aren't here, he says. Okay, so here, so I actually don't think that it was just like a interpretation that I formed in my head that ran afoul to question begging. I think it's an interpretation that maps on, just given like the information that you've laid out to me, right? So if I the way here's the way that I formalized it in my head, you can tell me if you agree or disagree with this formalization. So it would be something like, if it's the case that moral language purports to describe like objective facts, in the sense, and by objective I mean like irreducibly normative properties, then it's the case that uh, moral sentences, or that moral sentences are real, right? And when I say real, I mean that you're just presuming like, or not presuming, but you're taking on a realist interpretation of like folk discourse practice, right? And then premise two would just be like those facts don't actually exist. And then the conclusion is just therefore most moral sentences are false. So like, do you agree or do you disagree with that formalization just based off the stuff that you've told me?
I think the formalization is a little weird. but only in the sense I'm not saying that it begs the question, but it seems like premise one is a little bit tautological.
Okay, I'll just rephrase it then. So, premise one, moral language purports to describe objective, irreducibly normative properties. Premise two, no such properties exist. Conclusion, therefore, moral language, or excuse me, moral sentences, some of them are false.
Yeah, existentially. Like I think a lot of
Okay,
people make false moral claims.
okay. So, assuming this kind of formalization, right? What I'm asking you is, what's going to be the motivation for like either of those premises, right? Where the motivation, the reasoning behind why it's the case that either of those premises are true is not going to be parasitic on like the acceptance of the truth about the conclusion.
I think you might have gotten a little lost on what I was asking. I was asking for an inference that I gave that suggests that my thought process is begging the question in any way. My first thing that I said was that none of my inferences have been begging the question or would even imply that I'm begging the question. But it seems
I
like you're
just
just,
gave you.
but when I asked you, okay, maybe you interpreted something that was indicative of begging the question, you just gave me a valid argument in which the conclusion just logically follows and it's not begging the question. Are you under the interpretation that this formalization of the argument, or I didn't even give an argument, but the thought process, are you under the interpretation that this is begging the question, or are you simply just asking for an argument and then you have a prefix where, and when I give an argument, you don't want me to beg the question, even though nothing has been indicative of that thus far?
Okay. I don't think you're tracking. So, number one, there's not actually a charge on the table of question begging. That's the first thing. Okay. So, if you think that's the case, then you're not actually tracking the conversation. But the second thing is, what I told you, the question that I asked was first, you denied that you actually are making such inference. And then I laid out the inference, and you actually agreed with the inference that I laid out just based off the information that you gave me, which I formalized in my head. And then I just told you what the formalization was just now, which you signed off on. So now the question that I'm asking you is, right, what's going to be the like independent motivation for either of the premises, right? Where the plausibility of the premises are not going to presume the truth about the conclusion of the argument.
Okay, I agree with you in the proposition that one of us probably isn't tracking the conversation, and the answer as to which it may surprise you. You said that at first I denied the inference when I didn't deny anything. I didn't. I told you told me that you formalized my inferences in your head into an argument. Now I told you maybe it's the case that in that inference it's begging the question. I never denied it. I asked you what it was, and then my response was also not a denial of it. I said that it was a little strange because premise one seemed tautological. And when you have tautological premises, those might be indicative of begging the question due to circularity, right? In fact, begging the question can be expressed as tautology. And so, in order to avoid something that is indicative of a tautology, which is exactly what I precogged, I kind of assumed in my head maybe you have some premise that seems tautological to you. Um, that is the thing that I precogged, and that's the thing that I hypothesized about. And when you gave me the first formalization, is I'm like, okay, yeah, I think my hypothesis was correct. Where when you interpret what I'm saying, you're using tautological premises that to you come off as something that might indicate I would be begging the question in the future when substantiating one of these premises. But then we updated it, and again, I still never denied any of these things. I don't deny a tautology. They're begging the question arguments that I don't deny because the form of begging the question, it's not a formal fallacy. In fact, it just guarantees the conclusion. But that's just suggests that I didn't deny it, and that's to falsify the claim that I did. As for motivations for one of the premises, you say, or you're requesting for me to beg, substantiate one of the premises when I didn't really give a formal argument. Now I could go and get some data if you want. Do you want like a formal argument? Because I'm not very interested in those, unless you want me to sit here because you preface that or you don't want to debate right now, you just want to debate at a later time. But when you ask for formal arguments, that seems a little bit indicative of a debate, but that's fine. I can take like maybe a minute or two and go get some evidence and formalize the evidence in an argument form. Is that what you want for one of the premises?
Okay. So, firstly, I never asked for a formal argument. Second, you actually did deny it. You said literally, like not even a minute, not a moment ago, you said previously that you never actually made an inference, and then I told you in response that I made the inference in my head. That's what I said to you. Now, secondly, I'm not really sure what most of the responses were right there. It seems like a lot of it, most of it was just like a bunch of rhetoric. But what I'm telling you here is that if you and I both shake hands on the formalization that I've laid out, the inference that I've laid out, what I'm wondering is what the motivation for either of the premises is going to be, where the plausibility about the premise, right, is not going to be parasitic on just already accepting the conclusion, right? Because presumably, suppose that one is a sophisticated expressivist, or somebody is like a like Kantian constructivist about moral language or something, in which case they would not have any reason to accept like either of those premises, right? So the question that I'm wondering, the thing that I've been wondering, right, and the only thing that I've been wondering, which is why we're still having this conversation, not because I'm probing for a debate, but simply because I'm asking you, I'm inquiring about the formalization that we agreed on, is this: what's going to be the motivation for either of those premises, right? Where the plausibility of either of the premises is not going to be parasitic on the conclusion. That's it.
Okay, beautiful. You say that I rejected the fact that I made an inference when all the language that I've been using is that I'm making inferences in my head and they are not formalized. Now, you try to interpret the inferences that I gave and you try to formalize them in your own head, which that may or may not be problematic to do, considering the way that you've represented it initially. But one thing that is true is that I never denied that I made an inference. I straight up told you, I'm pretty sure I used the term inference before you because initially you were using the term argument and I changed the language to inferences in my head. So, I mean, that's a little bit of a tracking error. I'm hoping this doesn't play out throughout the conversation where I just have to address more and more tracking errors, whilst also you accusing me of tracking error. But that's fine. Um, so, as far as the other arguments, I'm just asking which particular premise motivation for. And when I ask you which one do you want motivation for, um, I'm not suggesting that you're requesting a formal argument. In fact, my last request at the end of my turn to talk, I was asking, do you want a formal argument for it, or are you okay with just like loose evidence? Because again, this wasn't supposed to be a formal debate, but it seems like you kind of changed your tone a little bit, which is a little interesting.
Okay. So, that's a very astute observation that you made about the tone, the change in my tone. Reason being is because for some odd reason, you're trying to do these weird, like, rhetorical jabs in the middle of our conversation. Secondly, it doesn't really matter if you brought up the term inference before me. That's not inconsistent with the claim that I made. But I'm actually willing to drop that point because it's just very uninteresting and it's not even tangential to any of the points that we're talking about currently. So I'll just sort of like give you a recap of the conversation and how we got to this point. You made a claim that you are sympathetic to something like Loeb's account of error theory. And as I understand it, right, he's going to take the view very similar, which is why I asked you the previous question about Mackey's metaphysical thesis, right, and his epistemological thesis. You said that, well, it's different in the sense where like Loeb is not committed to some of the things that like Mackey is committed to when they both present the theories. I said, okay. And then I gave you a formalization of my understanding of Loeb's account of error theory, right? Which is just the following: moral sentences purport to represent like, stance dependent, irreducibly normative truths. And it's not the case that such truths exist or such facts or properties exist, whatever you want to call it. Therefore, it's not the case that moral sentences are true, right? Or at least some of them under your conception of it. So then the question that I asked you following up was very simply, what's going to be the motivation for either of those premises? It's funny how you said that you asked me which one do I want motivation for when I've already stated previously either of them. It seems like you missed that as well, but I asked you for a motivation of either of the premises where the plausibility, right? The plausibility of the premises are not going to be parasitic on the opponent already having accepted the conclusion of the argument, right? That's the thing that I'm asking you to give. Now, you can give this formally, you can give it informally, however you'd like. I'm just interested in the reasoning, right? And how it's the case that the reasoning is not going to be parasitic on its conclusion.
Okay, beautiful. You say that me introducing the term inference was not incompatible with the claim that you made, but while asserting that, I think you forgot the claim that you made, which led you to drop that point. I can remind you if you want. The claim that you made was that I did not. Um, I rejected the proposition that I was making inferences, which I was the one who introduced the term, and I introduced it by me saying I made inferences in my head. Another thing is that um, Yeah, like you forgot the stipulation that I had when I asked you the question initially, like which premise do you mostly want me to motivate? Now, I was very careful with my language. I'm very succinct and linear like that. I did not ask you just which premise do you want motivation for. I understand that you want motivation for both of them, but I was asking you which one do you want mostly? Like how badly do you want me to motivate one premise over the other one? Now, if you're completely indifferent, that's fine, and I'll just like randomly choose. But is there a particular premise you want motivation more than the other?
Okay. I actually typed out what you said. You said, I understand you want motivation for both of them. Now, can you just sort of recap what I asked you with respect to the premises of the argument that we both signed off on?
Yeah, you said something that was just very trivial and not informative at all, is that you want an argument that is not begging the question. Now, assuming you're not a level one debater, I would find it
No, no,
really
no.
strange.
That's not the only thing that I said
Oh, well, I don't know why you're interjecting. I don't think I was done speaking.
because you're not answering my question.
Yeah, I don't think I was done speaking. Look at this guy. He's so uncordial.
Why would I let
Anyway,
you speak if you're not
why
answering my
why is this
question?
guy interrupting so much? Look, they called him uncordial
Because you're not
both
answering my
times.
question.
Anyways, I was answering your question. Just calm down
No,
for
you
a
weren't.
second. I was answering the question. Wait, do
You
you wanna
literally
just keep
didn't.
saying no you weren't? Do you wanna just keep saying no you weren't, and then I say yes I was, and then you say no you weren't? Do you wanna keep doing that?
I'm telling you that you're not answering my question.
Oh really? I didn't know that. My fault.
Yep. So answer my question.
Anyways, the thing that you were asking of with respect to those premises was you were asking for motivations for them where the premises are not parasitic on the conclusion. Now, that's a level one stipulation that was not informative at all. Initially, you tried to use that to indicate that I had already had something that was begging the question, or
Not the
indicative
only
of the
thing I
idea
said.
that my inferences were begging the question. Just calm down for a second. I know you're getting a little giddy right now. I know the dingo virus kind of got to you in your brain, but just fight the dingo urges, okay? Just calm down for a second. But
Dingo
anyways,
virus. Are you
yeah, the
serious?
dingo virus. I am serious.
Nigga. That was so cringe. You can do better than
Okay,
that.
I'm not being serious, but anyways. Um, so yeah, what you said was very level one. Now I noticed this is a little bit of a psychoanalysis. Now I noticed you tried to introduce terms like begging the question to indicate that I had already had done that in my head with the inferences that I was making in my head, which I told you. But eventually it got to a point where you kind of dropped that because of the succinct and linearness that I presented in the conversation. It made you not only drop that, but now you have to add it in to try to like give some retroactive continuity as to what you meant by it. And now you're just asking, what's the argument where the inferences do not are not parasitic, or the premises are not parasitic on the conclusion, which only a level one, like really slow debater, would ask for an argument without that stipulation. So it's kind of just assumed in my head that you wouldn't want a question begging argument. But of course, I made that assumption in my head with your abilities as a debater, which I probably shouldn't have made in my head.
Okay, are you done?
No, I was about to continue. And the reason why I shouldn't make those assumptions is because you're a low tier. You get destroyed by every single TikTok debater. You've lost every single conversation you've ever had. You even looked in a mirror and you lost a debate to yourself. That's how low tier you are, anyways, now and then.
God, sometimes when I hear people like you speak, I actually feels like an embarrassment. But yeah, you didn't even like accurately capture what I actually said. You only captured half of what I said. What I said specifically, and I made sure to put emphasis on this term, so you would at least catch on to the fact that I was emphasizing the term, which you failed to track for the third time. Was I asked you a question about the plausibility of either of the premises, to which you responded, quote, I understand you want motivation for both of them. Okay. That's fucking retarded. So I'm going to ask you the same question again. Okay. And hopefully this time you'll actually answer the question instead of doing these weird, very cringe rhetorical jobs. Okay. So the question is as follows. Given that you and I both agree on the inference that I laid out, the formalization that I laid out, right, about your conception of error theory, what's going to be the motivation for either of the premises, right, such that the plausibility, right, of the truth about the premises is not going to be parasitic on its conclusion. Secondarily, right, it's very funny how you pointed out this idea about me losing every single TikTok debate or whatnot. I mean, you can say those things, that's totally fine. I mean, you can have that opinion, I guess, but I'm not really interested in that. I'm just interested in the answer to my question that I've been asking you for the past like 20 minutes that you haven't answered.
Okay, wait. Unironically, the clarification you needed was between the terms either and both. That's really strange. Now, if you have, a desire for either strawberry ice cream or chocolate ice cream, and you're fine with either one of them, it seems like both of them would be sufficient to meet your criteria. Now, the thing that I was questioning was which one you wanted more. That one would be a successful application of the term either, but as long as there's equal desire distribution between both of them, it seems like it's okay for both of them to be given. Both of them have the property of satisfying your desires. That's the notion of conjunction that I was using that you probably missed out on because again, not only do you lose to every TikTok debater, you also lose to yourself in the mirror. You tried to debate your dog one time when you were 7 years old, and ironically lost that conversation too. He just barked and you lost.
Okay, so just more rhetorical, weak jabs and no response again. So I guess I'll just respond to the random gibberish that you just said, and then I'll ask you the same question again. So, firstly, yeah, I mean, if somebody asks a question like, "Do you want either of X?" and then the person responds back and they say, "Oh, I mean, I understand that you want both." That would be very fucking stupid, right? Like normal, regular English speaking people that don't spend 15 hours a day inside of their room locked up with dirty computers and sitting on their knees don't speak that way, right? The rest of us actually understand like regular fucking English. Like, for example, right? If I were to say something like this, if I were to say something like, I'll take either of those two pencils on the table, and then you respond back and say, oh, so you want both of them? That would just be fucking retarded, right? That's kind of like what you did there, right? When I asked you, what's the argument, right? What's going to be the argument for either of the premises, right? Where the plausibility is not going to be parasitic on its conclusion. And then your response is, oh, okay, I understand that you want an argument for both of the premises. That would also be fucking retarded. Okay, so that was the only point that was being made there. I don't know why you're trying to still debate your way out of this. That was just a mistake that you made. You can just accept that fact and we can move on with you answering the question. Okay, so the question again is what's going to be the motivation for either of the premises where the plausibility of the premises or the truth about the premises are not going to be parasitic on the conclusion.
Oh my gosh, this is you talk about being socially inept linguistically when I've already explained the notion of conjunction that I was using that most people would have picked up on by now. Unironically, most TikTokers would have picked up on that. But it's okay. I'll elucidate it a little bit more for you. So, Kay, is it the case you want motivation for premise one?
Premise one or premise two.
Oh, beautiful. Kay, now is it the case that you want motivation for premise two?
You can provide motivation for either.
Oh, that's a dodge. So, Kay, do you want motivation for premise two?
How is that a dodge? If I say
You
you
didn't
can
answer the
provide
question.
motivation for either, that includes premise two, no?
Oh, okay, so beautiful. Well, what I was asking for was a
So it's
succinct.
not a dodge, right?
I don't understand why you're interjecting
Oh,
right now. It's
so it's
okay.
not a dodge, right?
I don't understand why you're interjecting right now.
Yeah, but it's not a
Losing
dodge, right?
confidence. I know that you don't have the confidence to
Oh,
allow
so
your
I didn't
interlocutor
dodge
to
the
finish.
question, right?
I know that you don't have the confidence to let your
I just want to know if
interlocutor
I
finish.
dodged the question or not.
You did. Yeah, yeah, you definitely did.
Oh, how did I dodge the question, even though you just agreed that I didn't? Is that a
I want
contradiction?
no. I want a succinct response. You
Oh,
dodged giving a
so I
clear
did
response
dodge the
so
question
that
or I
you can.
didn't dodge
Yeah,
the
you
question?
did.
Which one
Yeah,
is
you
it?
did. Yeah,
Make
you
up your
did.
mind.
You did dodge the
How
question.
did
Yeah,
I
you
dodge the
dodged the
question?
question.
Explain.
Now, there's some sense in which you dodged it, and there's some other nuanced sense in which you didn't dodge it because you're a weasel like that.
There's some
Stop
sense in which
laughing,
you
man.
dodged it, some other sense where you
Yeah, the
did it.
weasel. Yeah, there's a weaselly sense that you can use to not dodge the question.
That's ironic.
Anyways,
Please
so
stop
yeah,
with
what we've
these
done,
rhetorical
what we've
things,
just
bro.
displayed, just to be clear, is that
Are you
you
okay?
wanted motivation for. No, I'm not okay. I'm talking to Kay
I
on
think he's broken.
Discord.
It's like
I'm
repeating
shaking.
himself now.
I'm shaking in my boots.
I know.
But anyway.
You tend to do that a lot.
That shit was not rhetorical, but anyways. So yeah, unironically, no, like okay, in all seriousness, you did say that you wanted motivation for one premise. You said that you wanted motivation for the other premise. I asked you, and the answer was yes for both of those. Now,
Motivation
is
for
that
either of them.
yeah, that's a conjunction.
Either is a conjunction
It's a conjunction of the distribution of desire.
of the
Not that you want
distribution of
both.
desire.
Yeah, you want desire for both the premises to be
I
motivated.
want desire for both of the premises. I want desire.
Wow,
You mean
great,
I
great.
desire for both of the premises?
Well, you got me there. You got me, man. Great
No,
job,
I'm just
man.
saying, like, it's just ironic how you were talking about speaking English just a moment ago and you can't even speak proper English. That's just ironic.
Sorry, I slipped up because I was talking to the great K on Discord.com.
Oh, you slipped up. Okay, got you. No, that's fine. I forgive you. Now, answer my question. What's going to be the motivation for either of the premises?
Okay, you realize you got butt fucked on that point, but it's okay. So the
I got
motivation for
butt fucked on that point. I got butt
thank you
fucked.
is I didn't realize there was an echo in here, but just turn your shitty microphone down and maybe we
Do you
won't
have an
hear
ability
repetition
to
again.
not be cringe? Are you just
No,
incapable of not being cringe?
it's also because I'm not being serious because this is kind of a waste of time.
Okay.
But yeah, the meta debate. I'm not even taking the meta debate like that seriously. But since you
Neither
keep
am I.
putting your all, no, unironically, it actually kind of like I haven't seen you give much better
Aura.
rhetoric than this.
Your seemings are not really justified.
Whoa, that was great. Anyways, motivation for premise one. Let me go back and look at premise one. Yeah. Well, first it was a conditional, and then we updated it. I didn't type out the update.
You
It's
forgot it?
just I didn't type it out. I don't remember
Did you forget
exactly
it
what it
though?
said, like word for word.
Oh, you forgot it? What do you remember about it? Because I repeated it several times. So this
So
is your
first you
time to
had
display your
no
tracking
first you,
abilities.
I don't know why. Okay, I might have to like take this debate seriously. I was kind of trolling before, but like, are you actually this stupid?
This is your time to display your tracking abilities.
Are you actually really stupid?
Answer my question. I don't know why you're doing
Bro,
this weird rhetoric thing.
dude, this is why you get embarrassed in Mason server like all the
What's
time, and I have
premise
to like
one?
premise one. Again didn't type it out. I'm not going to say it
Oh,
verbatim.
so you
But premise
forgot it.
one: moral language reports to objective facts.
There you go. Now, what's the argument for that?
Holy shit! Was that kind of the god? Was that the gotcha you were going for? What's premise one? Did
No,
you
I
forget
just wanted
premise
to
one?
know. I just wanted to know
That's
if you
weak.
forgot it or
That's
not.
weak. And while doing that, you have to overtalk. In fact, can we get now that this debate is just like now that I'm not trolling anymore, can we actually get a moderator for this dumb fuck?
Are you
Hey
scared?
guys, it's me.
Yeah,
Yo.
I mean, wait, do we have to have a talking stick right now, or
I
what's
don't
going
think
Yeah,
we
on?
we're
have to
gonna
have a
ask him to do
talking
that
stick.
because he can't control himself. He gets
Okay,
intimidated every
well,
single time.
okay,
Are we
You
gonna
can have a
well,
let the
talking stick
guy
if you
with
want.
Lou in the
okay,
name?
God, shut up, shut up.
Is this
All
like
right,
a
I mean,
clan?
let's like keep this shit linear, or like, yeah, I guess the talking stick will be introduced.
Sure, man. What's the argument?
Yeah. So, the argument that moral facts report objective facts. I'm not again. It's not a universal distribution, but it would be a falsification. It would be like proof by negation. So, I look at other alternative options where they don't report objective facts. I would make hypotheses about how people would treat moral language, and it seems like for the report of non-objective facts, those seem implausible given any account. Where I can give like a proof by reductio, um, and I falsify the entailments of a counter hypothesis. And then I can do that for you if you want, but we can just go one by one. So like for subjectivism, where the truth criteria is mind dependent or it's based off of preferences. I actually don't think that a lot of people, or at least I would say like a significant number of people, are not going to say that moral facts are based off of preferences, because I know at least that they're using moral facts in a way such where if you just had the preference to rape someone, I mean that's still not going to be moral. And so that's one member of a disjunction dismantled. Now you can input any other member of inside of the disjunction. I'll just like dismantle each of one of them. And then what I'm left with is that the hypothesis that they report moral facts seems ultimately more plausible. Now I've already eliminated one member of the disjunction. If you want to import another one, I can just eliminate that one too. But this is a moral realist, guys. He thinks that most people use moral language subjectively, I guess.
Is this like an open panel debate?
Yes
Yeah,
and
yeah,
no.
that's
It's kind
exactly
of
what that is. Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
it,
it's
it
kind
started
of
off as an open panel debate, and I started off
yeah.
as
Now,
Kay, like trying to meekly kind of ask me questions. I looked at it,
I'll go
and
next.
so I didn't
then.
really take it very seriously. But then he started over talking. He started getting flexing his
Why are
dialectical
you
knowledge.
loud miking?
Yeah, anyway, I'll
All
turn it down
debate.
because I don't want him to over talk. But here, is this a better Is this a better volume?
Kay's
yeah.
not
We're
All
even
debate.
keeping it.
Don't worry about it.
muted.
We're
I'll
keeping
revive
it
it.
like one on
Wait, where
one
did
for
Kay
right now.
go?
Well,
He's
it's
not
mainly
Like
for
Kay
you.
was doing all that piping up, and now he actually like piped down. Now that I actually got linear on him, and I wasn't like obviously trolling by saying he debates his dog and he lost to his dog. Yeah, that's definitely serious rhetoric. But now that I'm actually engaged in a debate, now he pipes down.
Loud
Guys,
micing
let's
while he's on mute is crazy, bro.
Oh.
Like, what?
Uh,
What the fuck?
next week we'll have who's a good debater on this panel besides Hajun?
Wait, is this a Kian? Sorry, you British people sound the same.
This is Hajun.
No,
Don't
you're
talk
not
about
British, dude.
Hajin.
You don't know
man,
who I
yo.
am?
Dude, you were dick eating so bad in that one bro.
Can you guys hear me?
I'm sorry, bro. I did not expect that to be Kian. Kian, you're usually like my op,
Yo,
low
Lunar, is
key.
my mic working? Can you hear me, Lunar?
No, it's not working.
Yeah, I can hear you.
You can hear me? Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically the question that I have for you is I heard some of what you said. I stopped listening at some point because somebody came in to talk to me. But basically, I'll just ask you this question. Like, do you believe it to be the case that like normative facts, whatever they may be under your view, presumably you think that they're like irreducibly normative properties, but nevertheless, you think that it's not the case that any moral sentences actually have like a satisfaction relation to any of these facts, given that these facts don't exist? Is it going to be the case, under your view, that these facts are basically going to be like hyper intentionally grounded?
There's a few notions of normative facts. Some of them I would say are irreducible, but the way that I use normative language, I've been able to reduce them like further. So
Oh, okay. So what are they
yeah.
reduce? What type of reduction is it?
One that reduces towards action guidance.
The type of reduction is
perception.
one that reduces.
To action guidance and virtue of perception of positive hedonic character.
When somebody asks you what type of reduction it is, do you understand what that question is?
It's an analytic reduction.
There you go. Okay, so you think that normative facts are
Another god shit
analytically...
like hey, very beautiful stuff right there.
Okay, anyways. So you actually believe it to be the case that there's an analytic reduction between normative facts and descriptive facts, correct?
Can you repeat what I told you?
Is that the case?
Can you repeat what I told you?
Why would I have to do that? What's the point of doing it?
To display that you understood what I said.
I can understand without repeating it back to you. Can I not?
You're asking me, is it the case that there's a reduction of normative facts to moral facts? And my answer is not that just there is an analytic reduction of normativity. There's a stipulation there. It's not universal. And so when you say, is there an analytic reduction, are you talking about that existentially?
Look, when I say is there an analytic reduction, all that's meant to be asked, or all that I'm asking there, is just simply whether or not you take the view that moral sentences are analytically identical to descriptive sentences.
Is that existentially or not?
It depends on what you mean by existential. Are you talking about existential quantification?
No, I'm talking about the other kind of. Obviously, I'm talking about existential quantification.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that, obviously. I thought that was already established in the conversation previously. That
I know, dumbass. I know you're not talking. I'm sorry, I'm over
committed to the props.
Go ahead, man.
Yeah, you are over talking. Okay. But obviously we've already established in the prior conversation that you're not making any existential claims. So I don't know why you would ask me for clarification on the existential stuff, given that we've already laid out the conditions for your view on the existential stuff. Why would you even ask me that?
Did you just say I clarified that I'm not making existential claims?
Yeah, that's what you said,
you
right? You said this. Okay, so you are making existential claims?
Are you actually slow? Repeat what I said that was indicative of the idea
No,
that I'm not making any existential claims.
You could just be clear instead of doing this weird like, are you dumb? Dude, can you repeat back to me?
You told me that we already clarified. Actually, you know what? Go ahead and keep rambling.
Just answer the question. Like I'm literally waiting.
All right. Now I'm waiting for you to answer this question. What did I say that that was indicative to you? What did I say that indicated to you that I already clarified we're not talking about existentials? Answer my question.
You asked my question, but after mine. So answer my question.
I already answered a bunch of your questions. Now answer one of mine.
I literally asked you a question and you're not answering it.
Bro, you got stuff locked for a second. That's kind of funny. But anyways, no, it's really stupid to represent. It's really stupid. No, I just want to understand, what did I say that indicated to you that I'm not talking about existentials at all?
I know you want to understand that. Now answer my question.
Because is the reason why you're not answering it because you realized it was really stupid to say that?
Let me know when you're ready to answer my question.
Because then you're just like a really stupid person. And I've already answered your question. Your question was on clarification. Now, there's a disjunction of possible ways that I could answer that question. I could say yes in this sense, no in that sense. I want to understand the way that the question is being levied. You wouldn't pick up on that because, again, you're a moron.
In what sense is it yes? And in what sense is it no?
I want to test your abilities. What sense do you think?
Oh my God. You're so
Do
fucking
you generally
cringe.
not know?
In what sense is it yes? And in what sense is it no?
When I ask you to repeat, I'm trying to. You know how when you have to help the autistic kid in the back of the class,
Jesus
you want
Christ,
to do
dude.
a lot of the work. You have to do a lot of the work for him, but like, you can't do all of the work for
That's
him. You kind of
so
have to like
fucking
plant
cringe.
seeds. You're gonna have to help him out a little bit. You're gonna have to like push him in the right direction. That me pushing you in the right direction was when I told you repeat what I said and remember we're talking about existentials.
This is so boring. In what
It's
sense
boring
is it
having
yes?
to
And in
it's
what
boring
sense
having
is
to
it
repeat
no?
my answers to you over and over.
In what sense is it yes? And in what sense is it no?
In the sense that it's yes is that it's existentially distributed, and the sense that it's no is universal distribution. You would have picked up on that if you weren't an idiot.
Okay, perfect. So you believe that it's existentially distributed, correct? Okay, cool, perfect. I got you.
I don't even think you remember
Oh,
what's the distribution.
say it again.
I don't even think you remember what the distribution is.
If you said it like while I was gone, then obviously I'm not going to remember it because I didn't hear what you said.
You introduced it, idiot,
I introduced the existential distribution.
by talking about the question, by introducing the question, and then I give a condition in which it's yes. That condition has a property to it,
So
existential. That's being
no.
applied to the affirmation of the question that you introduced.
What question are you referring to?
You don't even remember your own question. What?
Just because I ask you which question you're referring to doesn't mean that I don't remember the question. Because
It's
there's
okay,
a
little guy.
series of questions.
I'll repeat the
Because
question that
there's
you
a
forgot.
series.
Your
Because
question
there's
is it the case that normative statements are reducible analytically? I told you yes,
you're
they're
talking
reducible
about
analytically. I told you they're reducible. I told you, and here's another. This is just.
you're talking about that question.
You asked
Perfect.
me.
That's all
Just
you had to
calm
do.
down. You just hold on. Don't interrupt now. So you asked me, is the case
He's
that
doing like
I believe that normative statements are non-reducible? And I said no. I think a
they
lot
have
of
to
them are
loud mic.
reducible, and the way that I use norm is reducible. You asked me the type of reducibility, and I told you the type of reducibility. Then you asked me for clarification on the thing that I already told you. You asked a repetition of your question, and then you forgot your own repetition because you're an idiot.
Yeah, so the reason why you feel the need to loud mic is because you're not actually confident in the claims that you're making. That's why you feel the need to overspeak me, and you know that your mic is louder than me. That's why you feel this need, this weird reason, this weird like odd obsession that you have to like loud mic. But secondly, all I'm asking is for clarification on the claims that you're making. Very simple. You don't need to do these weird rhetorical moves where you're like, oh, can you repeat back my question? I'll just to show that you're tracking the conversation. It's just really fucking cringe. It wastes everybody's time. Nobody here is interested in that. Okay. So now, as I understand your claim, and we'll just say this finally, for the final time, if this is a correct encapsulation of your view, okay? So you believe it to be the case that you accept a realist semantic thesis in the sense where you do in fact believe it to be the case that moral sentences purport to show, or rather or that they have a satisfaction relation, you could say, to like stance independent facts, objective facts. But nevertheless, you don't actually believe that these facts exist. Now, the relation, right, between normative facts and descriptive facts is going to be an analytic identity relation, okay? And it's going to be something that's existentially distributed. Is that correct? Am I missing anything? Does that sound accurate to your view? Just a simple yes or no will do.
It's so funny how the people who overtalk, and then I kind of like sarcastically repeat, oh, now you're overtalking, now you're overtalking. I wasn't even. But then eventually I got to a point where I was like, okay, dude, now you're actually overtalking because you lack confidence. It's so crazy how all of a sudden, whenever my microphone quality changes, so does their tone. Sudden interruption is an indicator for lack of confidence. That's really strange, and I actually agree with that inference right there. But when I applied it earlier, the tone kind of was different. But yeah, and another thing that I'm really bored with, like I don't know why you're talking about getting bored when I'm the answering a question, repeating the answer, explaining the answer, answering the same question again for quote unquote clarity. I don't want to sit here and do this for 2 hours. I don't want to waste my time like that. That's really boring to me when you don't understand my answers. I clarify them, I give semantic reductions on them, you repeat just to make sure that you're quote unquote clear, and then I have to answer it again and again. I'm really tired of that. And so what I'm going to ask you, what I'm going to ask of you is I at least want at least some evidence that you're even tracking and not just sitting here asking me questions for the sake of asking me questions. A lot of people tend to do that when they don't have any substance. It seems like you're one of those people. But to make sure that you're actually taking the information that I'm giving you, writing them down in whatever notepad you have, maybe it's a mental notepad. I just want to make sure that I'm not going to waste my time over and over. What do you think the answer to your last question is? Even though I've already answered it, and yes, I can repeat your question, but what do you think the answer is?
Holy fuck. You are like the staple child of cringe. This is actually embarrassing. I'm going to ask you the question again. Okay. Is this an accurate encapsulation or recapitulation of your view? You believe it to be the case that moral sentences purport to show or rather they have a satisfaction relation, I could say, to stance independent facts. But you don't actually believe that these stance independent facts exist. And so, applying like existential distribution, you think some of those sentences will come out false, not a universal distribution, right? You're not actually committed to like Mackey's view or something where it is the case that like all the sentences come out false in the sense where like they're systematically false. You think that some of them are false. And it's also the case that the relation that's going to obtain between normative facts and descriptive facts is going to be it's going to be like an analytic identity relation. Is that an accurate encapsulation of your view? Yes or no?
What do you think?
What I think is for you to answer the question.
Do you think?
Yeah, I'm thinking, why is he not answering the question? That's what I'm thinking right now.
Can you hypothesize why I'm not answering the question?
No,
Give your best hypothesis.
No,
It's not feasible to you why I'm not answering the question. No, this is your moment. This is like a bit of a pro tip. This is your moment to say something rhetorical, like, "Oh, it's because you don't even remember the question. It's because you spaced out and you were drooling on your screen or something. That's why you're not answering." You could have done something like that. But you have no idea why I'm not answering the question at all.
I'm going to give you one more chance. And after this, if you don't answer the question, I'm just going to step out of the conversation. So finally,
oh, thank God. Why would I answer the question now?
Your choice, buddy. So the question is as follows. Is it the case on your view that what it means, or excuse me, rather you accept a realist semantic thesis, but you don't actually think that the sentences are going to be like universally distributed. Rather, you think they're existentially distributed. Now, by the way, for the chat, if people don't know what existential distribution is, existential statements are basically, they're not normally or typically, they're not going to be like undistributed over the domain, right? So it's going to be the case that like, you could say like some X or Y is going to basically assert that there's at least one X that is Y, right? So it's not actually going to commit you to saying anything about all of X, only about at least one X, right? That's just kind of like what an existential distribution is, just for the chat. So now the question that I'm asking you is it the case that that's the kind of distribution that you're talking about? And is it also the case, right? Is it accurate for me to capture your view in this sense? Is it also the case that the relation that's going to obtain between normative facts and descriptive facts is going to be an analytic identity relation?
How was your day, man?
Okay, perfect. So yeah, I mean, it seems like you don't want to answer the question. Also, I'll just say this final
really?
thing. What
an astute observation then.
Yeah, thanks. Also, I'll point out this other part of the conversation. Previously, when I asked you what the whether or not the plausibility of either of the premises is going to be parasitic on the conclusion, it seems like the motivation that you gave initially for the plausibility of the premises included some type of disjunction. I didn't actually catch it fully because somebody came into the room and actually was speaking to me, so I didn't actually hear a lot of that explanation that you gave previously. So the question that I was going to ask you following up after you simply answered that question was going to be for you to restate that motivation that you gave for the first premise that I didn't hear previously when somebody came in and talked to me. But you didn't want to do that. Instead, you want to do this weird rhetorical thing where you're like, what do you think my answer is? I've already answered this question several times. I don't know. Doing this weird cringe thing, and everybody in the chat is like cringing at you. So, I mean, yeah, this has just been proven to be entirely unproductive. Also, I love the fact that you tried to pretend as if you were trolling previously. and then you like suddenly turned off the switch and like stopped trolling. You were
I told
cringe.
you you
the
debated your
entire-
dog and you lost.
You were cringe the
Then
entire time.
you have no
right?
social cue awareness,
Like,
unironically, do you?
Before you flipped on the switch and after you flipped on the switch, that didn't like change anything about the fact that you were cringe. Lucario, you're just cringe. Like you're just like a, what's the word that I can use to describe you? You're like one of those
In any
kids
case,
where
in any
you
case,
just got like bullied
in any case,
like throughout your entire high
in
school
any
career.
case,
So then what
in
you
any
did
case,
is you
in any
sat in
case,
your room.
in
Are you
any
okay?
case, in any case. Oh, you're trying to attack my
So-
personal character, but in
Oh,
any
he's
case.
he's broken now. He's broken now. So, anyways, you're like one of those kids, basically,
Yeah,
where like
anyways,
you got
in any
bullied
case.
throughout your entire.
You're
Okay, I'm
attacking
just gonna
personal
look.
characteristics,
Just
and personally, I just don't find it appealing.
gonna
But in
locally
any
mute you,
case,
and I'm not gonna. If he's talking right now, I can't hear him. By the
your
way,
microphone is
he's
shit, by the
locally
way.
muted.
Your
But
microphone is
anyways,
shit.
the point is,
Your microphone is dog shit.
like
can
you're
understand what you're
genuinely
saying.
like
You
one
can
of those
blow the
kids
fuck
that
up.
got bullied
I'm
your
kidding.
entire fucking
But
high
in any
school
case-
career. So
in
what
any
you
case-
did is that you
No,
spent your
notice what
entire
these
fucking
notice what
time
these
like
pro-lifers do. They
reminiscing
just
over your
attack
fucking
personal
life, and then you
character.
like
I
were
just want a
reading
good faith
philosophy books in
discussion
your
where I
dirty
repeat the same
ass room
question
with your
over and
dirty ass
over.
computer.
That's just what I want
And
to
so
do. But in
now
any
you get on
case,
TikTok
this
lives and
guy
Discord
just wants to
panels,
posture
feeling this
over and
sense of
over
authority
because he
because
can't
you
engage
understand
on
the
the
fact that most people
substance,
don't
right?
have
I just want
philosophical
people to engage
understanding of
on the
topics,
substance.
and you use that
But in any
as a way
case,
to fuel the
this is
fact
what
that you're
we're left
actually like
with.
severely
People
fucking insecure
rambling
about
over
your
and
own
over
self, right? Which
because
is
they're
like
scared to
insanely
actually
fucking
give an
cringe. I
argument.
think that's what
They
people
don't have an
see
argument for
when they hear
pro-life.
you saying these
They
like
don't have an
cringe
argument
things,
for
right?
theism.
But
And when they do give
in
an
any case,
argument,
I mean,
it's
that's the only
begging
thing
the
that I have to
question.
say. So if
But in
anybody
any
else wants to
case,
debate, they're
I'm
free
gonna
to
go ahead
come
and
up.
stand now
Otherwise, I'm
because
gonna
no
leave
one's
in like
interested in this
15
cringe
minutes.
stuff. No one's interested in this
All-
cringe shit. I'm Christian, by the way.
All right. It's time for the high tier debate of Hajun. Who wants to challenge the GOAT?
Pipe down, Hodgin.
Type shit.
Wait, is there anyone smarter here? No, wait, we got Moxie. Wait, ask and you shall receive.
That's not true. That's not true.
Any